What's up, guys? We're back, and it's for another breakdown and predictions video. This week it's for UFC 267, Jan Blachowicz taking on Glover Teixeira. And man, I mean, after a few weeks of some kind of mediocre cards from the UFC, we're finally getting a great few cards back to back, and it starts with this one, man. 15 fights. More than likely, obviously, a couple fights will probably fall off, but we're back to Fight Island here, so we're seeing a lot of foreign flavor, a lot of different fighters from different countries. And we're getting two really good title fights. We're obviously getting the main event, but we're also getting Petr Yan taking on. We got the return of Khamzat Chimaev. We got a lot of really good fighters on the card mixed in, and it's a really good card. So I'm excited to break it down. But like always, before we get the video started, just want to give a few things, or say a few things. First of all, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, get some more content, make sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. Have a lot of really good content over there, all my betting packages, and you can see the package that you want, get it, and there's a lot of good stuff over there. We got Dana White Contender Series for the last week, next week, and then we got obviously a lot of UFC events coming up, a lot of Bellator events, different events that I'll be doing videos over there for, so definitely check that out if you're interested in that. And once again, for this video, I want to try to get 250 likes. That would be awesome, guys. So make sure to smash that like button. Put a comment down below. What do you think about the card? Are you excited that it's finally better card than what we've been receiving recently? We got really good main event, co-main event. So who do you think is going to win in the title fights? You think Glover Teixeira is going to be able to steal that title? Jan Blachowicz is going to retain? You think Petr Yan is going to be able to get that interim strap? Or you think it's going to be Cory Sandhagen? I'm interested in what you guys think on that. Obviously, there's some other good fights, but those are the main ones. And finally, I just want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They're some of the best handicappers in the game, and as you see, they've been doing really well with their best bet. They're plus 65 units on that since March 1st, 2021. They're plus 65 units as well in their MMA profit, and they're not just betting MMA. They do all different type of sports. They are very good in terms of helping you out if they don't do well. They have a dividend program where they do give you $25 for every unit lost that you do lose over a 1 month period on their website here. And they also have $5.99. They have a 4-day free trial, so it's inexpensive, and they do have the ability for you to get in, try it for free, see if you like it. And yeah, I mean, their goal for this year is 96 units profit. So for $100 better, you're going to be getting $9,600. They're obviously not just doing UFC, like I said, so you can check out their NBA betting, their NFL betting, college sports, and they're really good in terms of transparency. Obviously, they do great with analytics, friends that let friends gamble without math, and Equity Sports Analytics are some of the best people out there doing it. So definitely check out their website, get in on the free trial, see if you like it, and if you do, get in on the package and start making some money with them as well. So big shout out to EquitySportsAnalytics.com. And now we're going to get into it here with the first fight of the night. We got Ulanbekov taking on Nascimento. Ulanbekov is a Russian fighter. Obviously, he's coming out of Dagestan. He trains over at Nicotones MMA, though, in New Jersey. He has trained there in the past. I don't exactly know where he was training for this camp, but so he's part of that Zabit crew as well and is trained with them over there. And Nascimento, he trains out of Shootbox Diego Lima, so he's training out of a good gym as well. He's from Brazil. He's fought in the Contender Series, and this is going to be his UFC debut. Ulanbekov ran his overall winning streak to 4. He won his UFC debut. That was a little over a year ago, so he hasn't really had a lot of success getting fights since then. He's had to pull out of a couple fights, and hopefully he can make it to the octagon on Saturday night. But he's a well-rounded fighter. On the feet, he's very long. He's rangy for a flyweight. Really good footwork. His movement is top-notch, very fast. He's going to be the faster, better mover in this fight for sure. And he's more of a counter striker. He will fake and feint on the outside. He likes to get opponents to bite, then counter with the 1-2 or the 3-2. Very fast twitch. Good job of pressuring, force exchanges. And he does a good job of winning those exchanges as well. He picks his shots well. He has improved his jab. His head movement has improved. And when he gets his timing, he can really touch guys up. He could pull them into his body head combos. He has a good kicking game as well. He can be a little bit stagnant at times with his head movement, and he can get kind of cracked with some overhand, some crosses. I've seen him have some difficulty with leg kicks in the past, hasn't checked those. But most of the time he has the distance control. He has the defense to the head pretty tight with his guard. His leg kicks are really where he struggled against Bruno Silva. That's where Bruno Silva had the most success. But Alan Nascimento isn't really much of a leg kicker, so don't know if that's going to be as big of a issue for him in this fight. And Teixiera, coming out of Dagestan, he obviously has that Dagestani grappling style. He likes to back you to the cage, get you in the clinch. He has really good takedowns against the cage. And then he has really good top control. He has good ground and pound. He can take the back, and he has good rear naked chokes. His cardio is really good. He has a couple submission wins, but mostly he just looks to grind guys out. Isn't really a big-time finisher. And his opponent, Alan Nascimento, pretty experienced, even though this is his UFC debut. He's 18-5. He's competed mostly in Brazil, but he has some big show experience. He fought for Ryzen. He fought in the Contender Series. He fought for the Legacy Flyweight title way back in the day. And he's proven himself against good competition. He actually lost a very close split decision to a ranked bantamweight in Raulian Paiva on the Contender Series in 2018. He nearly took 3 years off after that belt, but he returned in July. He won via first-round rear naked choke, and that one victory was all he needed to get this UFC call. On the feet, Nascimento is a bit stiff. He stands tall. He likes to pressure behind 1-2s. He has a pretty good front kick. He likes to throw good uppercuts. On the inside, he'll throw elbows, flying knees. But, you know, he's kind of just trying to back you up so he could force a grappling exchange. He isn't really the best striker overall. And he only has 2 knockout victories in his career, but he's never been finished either by knockout or submission, so he's proven to be very durable, and he's definitely dangerous on the ground. He has 13 submission wins. He trains with guys like Charles do Bronx Oliveira, and you can tell by the way he flows on the mat. He's a black belt. He has really good ability to catch submissions and scrambles. He's really hard to hold down. He obviously has 18 wins, and 13 of them are submission victories, so most of his wins come that way. Isn't really a great wrestler. I really struggle to see him finding this fight or getting this fight to the ground. But he is a decent single. He'll try to work the double. When he gets on top, he's really aggressive, and he will sacrifice position for submission, but obviously he's been good with that. And off of his back, he's very good as well. He will pull guard. You have to be wary of his leg attacks. He has great cardio, and he will push the pace. So that's one thing about Alan that's dangerous, is he does have ability to, even if he's losing, he could stay locked in and get that finish in the later rounds. But I kind of see this being as a fairly easy matchup for Teixiera Ulanbekov. He's going to be able to match the reach and actually have a 1-inch reach advantage over Alan Nascimento, which Nascimento usually really relies on his reach and height to back guys up. And he has the better wrestling, he has the faster hands, the better footwork, the better technical striking overall. Nascimento has an outside chance of catching a submission if Teixiera gets lazy in a scramble, or, you know, if he's on top and his full guard gets a little bit lazy. But ultimately, I just don't see that being a high likelihood. I think there's a big, wide margin on the feet. I don't think Nascimento is going to be able to get the takedown. And I just see Teixiera fighting smart, you know, using his superior speed, his counters, touching Nascimento up as he tries to get inside. Maybe getting some takedowns near the end of the rounds, but I think he'll probably keep it on the feet more often than not. You know, if Nascimento really pushes the action, I think Ulanbekov could maybe even get a knockout, but overall he's more of a decision type of guy, and it is 125 pounds, so more than likely it's going to be a decision win for Ulanbekov in my opinion. Nascimento's obviously never been finished either, so give me Teixiera Ulanbekov, and he's a pretty big favorite, but I think it's fairly warranted at this point. And this is an under-the-radar fight here with Damir Ismagulov taking on Magomed Mustafaev. To a lot of people, Damir Ismagulov is the dark horse of the UFC's lightweight division. He's 4-0, and with this being his second fight in 4 months, hopefully we'll see him more active from now on, because he's had a lot of lulls early in his UFC career. But he's defeated some good fighters. He beat Joel Alvarez, he beat Thiago Moises, and he's super technical on the feet. He's long, he's rangy, his speed is one of his best weapons. He's a pressure fighter. He fakes and fades his way into range really effectively, and he just has really fast hands, good straight shots. He will attack the body effectively as well. He has really good check hook. He has a good kicking game as well. He'll mix in a lot of low kicks, round kicks, front kicks. He has good spins. His cardio, his pace, and his power or his speed are probably his best weapons. He tries to push his opponents back, keep a high strike count, and he's smart in the way he attacks. He doesn't really take a ton of risks. and he's a very good point fighter on the feet. He's a strong grappler. He always pressures forward, and he has really good distance control, which makes it hard for fighters to shoot in on him. Takedown defense is really good, and isn't super active with his wrestling, but he will mix in reactive takedowns. He's really fluid in the way he mixes it up. In top position, he has really good ground and pound. Isn't really a submission threat, but he can control the position. And for his opponent, Magomed Mustafaev, he's only had 5 fights in the UFC, but he's already mixed it with a lot of the top guys. He's seen some of the best striking the division has to offer. He fought Brad Riddell. He fought Rafael Fiziev. He also fought one of the best wrestlers in the division in Kevin Lee. And he's had entertaining fights all throughout the way. You know, his match with Brad Riddell was the first fight he ever had that went to decision. He hasn't been very active, though, and, you know, once again, he's taken an 8-month layoff. He's been under a UFC contract since 2015, only fought 5 times, and he was actually supposed to fight a couple weeks ago. He was supposed to fight against Renato Moicano, then he was supposed to fight against Mateus Gamrot, and those fights never materialized for some reason, but he's coming back a couple weeks later, and when he gets in the octagon, he always brings it. He's super dangerous. He's a really good kicker, really good body kicks, head kicks. He'll throw spinning kicks, which are very dangerous. He could switch stances and throw kicks from either side. In terms of the hands, I mean, he isn't really a great boxer. He'll wing big overhands. He has decent counterpunching with the left hook, the rear uppercut. His right hand is okay, but he could be low volume. He's explosive and powerful, and the danger factor can lull fighters into slow-paced fights, but he isn't really a high-volume guy, more of a counter-striker. Kind of lets fighters back him up and then fakes and feints and explodes in and he tries to catch them. And he really has only been outstruck in the UFC by Brad Riddell, though, so overall striking has looked pretty good. But he doesn't do great against leg kicks. I think pressure is going to be a little bit of an issue for him if Ismagulov could pressure effectively. But, you know, he's dangerous when you pressure him. I mean, Rafael Fiziev got caught with a spin kick and knocked out. And he's proven, you know, he has 10 knockouts in his career, so he can knock you out. He's not really a heavy grappling-based fighter, but his last fight, you know, against Brad Riddell, he got several takedowns and made the match close, and he obviously can mix it up. He was outgunned in the striking realm in that fight, but got a lot of single legs against the cage against Riddell, several mat returns, he controlled the back position, and he did a good job staying sticky against the cage, controlling him. But in his fight with Kevin Lee, you know, against a higher level wrestler, he couldn't stop the takedown. He got taken down a few times in the first round, got tired, and he did show a good ability to scramble early, but eventually gave his back, got submitted in that second round. If you force him to wrestle, put him on his back, he does seem like he does slow down. In his match with Brad Riddell, he did slow down in the third round as well a little bit. So, you know, ultimately I do think that if Demir comes in here and tries to take him down or mixes in the takedowns, it could put him on his back. That could go a long way in terms of getting Mustafaev a little bit tired. And this is a good contest. I mean, Demir Ismagulov is very precise. He is going to have the reach advantage. He has really good pressure. He has a good pace. He needs to use that here. He needs to use his effective pressure, jam the kicks, try to keep the volume high, attack the body, keep Mustafaev on the back foot, get him tired. And if Mustafaev gets wild, he needs to wrestle, try to slow the fight down. Mustafaev is very explosive, and we saw Rafael Alves, his last opponent, who's also an exploder, explode in and drop Ismagulov early on. So Ismagulov was able to recover that time, but he has to be a little bit turned on earlier in this fight. And I expect Magomedov to try to duplicate that, but actually try to get the finish in the early rounds. I don't really see him being able to keep the pace if it goes late, but he's always dangerous for the knockout. Ismagulov is the pick for me, and I think he's going to win via decision here. In this next fight, we got a middleweight bout between Yao Zhanghu and Andre Petrosky. Petrosky, this is going to be his second fight in the octagon, and he's jumping right back in the cage after just fighting a month ago, and he took some damage in that fight. I mean, he got rocked, but, you know, he ended up getting the submission, and he feels confident enough to jump in here on short notice against Yao Zhanghu, who says it's going to be a second attempt to fight this year. He had a couple bouts booked against Alan Amedovski that just never materialized for whatever reason. And it's also going to be his third different weight class in the UFC. He fought at heavyweight, he fought at light heavyweight, now he's dropping down to middleweight. And he's still looking for his first UFC win. So that's pretty interesting about who. But, you know, looking at this fight, I mean, there's not really a ton to go off of. We got Petrosky, who's a really strong grappler. He has good level changes. He has the real good rear naked choke. And fairly powerful on the feet, but he has cardio issues. And then we got Yao Zhang Hu, who big guy that, you know, likes to brawl. He is going to have the height advantage, but he actually doesn't have the reach advantage in this fight. But he has a good grappling base in terms of clinch takedowns. But if you watch this fight with Cyril Asker, he was getting taken down really easily with singles and doubles, and ended up giving his back and submitted. So I don't really know how good he is off of his back or in terms of jiu-jitsu realm. He's had a while to improve, but just from what I've seen, I got to go with Petrosky here via submission. But don't really have a ton of intrigue in this fight really overall, to be honest with you. And in this next one, we got Makwan Amirkhani taking on Laron Murphy. And Laron Murphy is a huge favorite here, minus 340. I definitely think that's a little bit unwarranted, but ultimately, I mean, I do like Laron Murphy, man. I've been a big fan of his. I picked him in all his fights in the UFC. Picked him when he fought Zubaira Tukhogov. That fight went to a draw. But he got taken down several times in that fight against Zubaira. He got taken down against Ricardo Ramos. And that's Makwan's game. I mean, Makwan's going to be going there trying to hit the takedowns, control on top. But one thing about Laron Murphy that he's proven is he's a banger. He's super explosive, and it's hard to hold this guy down, man. I mean, he just can work his way back up to his feet. When he gets in top position like he did against Ramos, he can pound you out really effectively with the ground and pound. He has really good forward pressure, great cardio, and big power. Pretty technical striking. On the feet, I don't really think it's much of a contest. I think Laron will blow him out of the water if Makwan can't slow the fight down or get the takedowns. And Makwan just hasn't been able to show that cardio. Even in his last fight, I mean, it seemed like he was talking a big game. He put on a lot of weight, and he was a lot stronger and things like that. But it still didn't translate to the fight, man. He got tired, and he lost as a big favorite to Camelo Kirk, even though I actually felt like he won that fight. But, Kirk ended up getting the nod, But this one against a guy like Laron Murphy, if he gets tired, I think Murphy could potentially take him out. So that's kind of what I see happening. I think Makwan might not look like a plus 260 early. He might get a couple takedowns. He might control, might even win the first round. But I think once he starts to slow down just a little bit, Murphy's going to be on him. Murphy's going to be making him work. He's going to be pressuring. And if Makwan shoots a sloppy takedown, he gets on bottom, he could pound him out. So I think that Laron is going to get the knockout along the way, either the second or third round of this fight. In this next battle, we got Michał Oleksiejczuk. He's going to be taking on Shamil Gamzatov. Good fight, two light heavyweights. Michał, he's been a fixture of the UFC's light heavyweight division in the last couple years. He's fought quite a bit, and he's one of the younger fighters in the division. He's only 26 years old. He's already picked up some solid wins. He beat Khalil Roundtree, beat Gian Vellante, beat Modestas Bukauskas, even that win was a little bit disputed. And he's had some rough losses as well, though. I mean, he got finished by OSP, got dominated and submitted by Jimmy Crute. So he's had a couple bad fights, but overall he's performed pretty well. He's the slight underdog here. Shamil Gamzatov, 14-0. He's another Russian fighter. First fight in about 2 years. Had a couple scheduled bouts go by the wayside due to visa issues, but should be an issue for him to get to Fight Island. And the UFC has pretty high hopes for him, obviously, because they matched him up against OSP, Devin Clark. Now they're matched up against Michał. So, they definitely feel like he's a pretty good fighter. In his debut, he kind of squeaked by via split decision over Clinton Abreu. It wasn't a great performance, but obviously he's 14-0. He's yet to taste defeat. He does have a padded record. Before coming to the United States, he finished all 8 of his opponents, and they were all very low level. And since coming to the United States, getting that step up in competition, he's been more of a decision fighter. His last 5 wins have all came via decision. But he's big for the division. He's going to have a big size advantage in this fight. He's a technical striker. He likes to counter strike. He'll pull fighters with the check hook, the big straight right, the overhand right. He has a good kicking game. He'll throw hard leg kicks, good round kicks, good body head attack. He is pretty flat-footed, though. Not a lot of head movement. And the matchup with Oleksiejczuk should be fun because if it stays standing, Michał brings it. Gaspar will oblige with counters in a brawl. He'll sit in the pocket. And in Gaspar's last fight, he did get chewed up with the leg kicks a little bit. But, obviously I feel like with Michał, I don't think he's really going to throw a lot of leg kicks. He's more primarily a boxer. Breo did seem like he stunned him a couple times, and that's something that Michał is going to be able to potentially do because he has big power. But Shamil isn't really an offensive grappler. I think it'd be smart to rely on it if he can in this fight, though, because he's a former Abu Dhabi tournament champion. I've seen him get some explosive single and double leg takedowns. He has good top control. And I'm not really sure he will go for takedowns, though, because in his other fights, he really hasn't. He's kind of struggled more with defensive wrestling throughout his career. I don't think he's going to really have to worry about someone taking him down in this fight. I mean, Michał Oleksiejczuk, it's pretty obvious what he comes with. He's a pretty good boxer. He throws punches and bunches. He has fast hands. He'll attack the body, head. On the inside, he's pretty effective. But he's a little bit small for the division, and he can struggle to get on the inside. He can get pieced up, a little bit boxy, a little bit kind of slow with his movement. His wrestling is only mediocre, and it seems like when he gets put on his back, doesn't really do well. His cardio also isn't the greatest. Seems like he gets slowed down a little bit in certain fights. And looking at this matchup, I mean, either guy really could win in my opinion, but I think Chimaev is going to be able to land some counters, land the bigger shots, be a little bit cleaner, and get the win. But this is another one of these fights where there's 15 fights on this card, and I'm not really too invested in this fight in terms of betting. Don't really, have a super strong read on it. I feel like it's a close fight here, but I'm going to go with Chimaev Khamzatov. And in this next fight, we got a veteran taking on a debutant here with Elizeu Zaleski Dos Santos Capoeira. He's going to be taking on Benoit Saint-Dennis, the god of war here. And Zaleski, he's back. He's taking a pretty long layoff. He hasn't fought in over a year. Last time we saw him was when he lost that close split decision to Muslim Salikov. He did win 7 UFC fights in a row. He had a knockout over Sean Strickland. But he went 1-2 in his last 3 fights, so he's kind of been losing recently. Combine that with the layoff, and the fact that he's getting a newcomer to the UFC, I think this is a big-time fight for him. I think it's a kind of a must-win. And Benoit Saint-Dennis, I don't know why I keep trying to say St. Lucas, but Benoit Saint-Dennis, he's getting a huge opportunity in his first UFC fight. He's a French prospect. He's competed in Brave CF recently. He's 8-0-1, so he's undefeated. But this is by far his toughest test. I mean, he's beaten some fighters with some solid records. But Zaleski is an established UFC beast. And Saint-Dennis, I mean, he's more of a grappler. He looks a little bit sloppy on the feet. He has that bladed stance. He throws some decent kicks, but he's pretty flat-footed. His boxing, his punching technique looks kind of sloppy. A little bit stiff, vulnerable in exchanges. And, I feel like he's in big danger in a striking match with Zaleski. But he's a grappler. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu. He has a judo background. He's aggressive on the mat. He looks for finishes when he gets fights to the ground. He has 7 submissions out of his 8 wins. There's not really a ton of footage out there on Saint-Dennis, to be honest, so it's hard to make a real strong claim on his skill set. But this is a huge step up. And Zaleski, man, I mean, not many guys have been able to implement a game plan of taking him down and controlling him. He is really dangerous on the feet. He's super durable. He's there to brawl. Great kicking game, real powerful, explosive, good hands. And I just feel like he has way higher level experience than this Benoit Saint-Dennis guy. And I think he's going to knock him out. So I'm going to go with Zaleski Dos Santos this one to pick up a first-round knockout. And with this next fight, we got Albert Duraev taking on Roman Kopylov. And Albert Duraev blasted through a tough opponent on the Contender Series. He impressed Dana White, and he's getting a quick turnaround just a month later. He's getting a fight on a pay-per-view. And he was actually expecting to face a veteran in Elizeu Zaleski, but Chirico withdrew, and now he's facing an 0-1 UFC fighter in Roman Kopylov. And Duraev is a grappler. He, on the feet, I mean, just kind of wings big hooks, overhands back guys up to the cage to get him down. He has big power, and he's pretty athletic. The third of the takedown does make fighters hesitant to really let go. But he's been knocked out in all 3 of his losses, and he's gotten flatlined, been knocked out pretty badly. So that's something that you have to be real worried about if you lay a lot of money on him. But he hasn't been defeated since 2014. He's on a 9-fight winning streak, very confident. And he's a beast grappler, man. Excellent takedowns in the clinch and in the open mat. He has good control on top, and he has nasty ground and pound. He has really good transitions, really strong ground game. He was able to dominate a guy in Peter Strauss, who's a really good grappler on the ground. And if he puts Kopylov on the mat and puts a lot of pressure on him, I could see him get the finish here. Duraev has good cardio. He's got 5 rounds. And Roman Kopylov, UFC debut didn't go very well for him, and then he decided to withdraw from a couple fights with visa issues. So this is a big fight for him. This match is a short notice fight, but hopefully he stayed ready and performs better than he did in 2019. It has been a long layoff for him as well. And he is a southpaw. He's pretty technical. He's long range. He has fast feet, fast hand. He's a good frame for the division. Good left kick to the body and the head. Good jabs, good 1-2s. He'll attack with some decent blitz attacks. More of a point fighter. He breaks guys down with pressure. Doesn't really throw a ton of volume, but he has good cardio. He picks up the pace when guys start to slow down, and he's good at pressuring and backing them up. He is pretty flat-footed. He's susceptible to low kicks. Doesn't really move his head much. Carl Roberson was able to back him up easily with feints and limited strikes. Really beat up his lead leg and then finished him on the ground. And it was a bad performance for him. He has to be way more aggressive on Saturday night. But Kopylov, not really much of a grappler. Haven't really seen him shoot takedowns in his fights. Takedown defense looks okay. He tries to keep it long, but fighters have been able to get it on his legs, get him against the cage. And he has to avoid those positions against a guy like Albert Duraev, because against Carl Roberson, he got beat up on the feet. Roberson got in on a single leg, took him down against the cage, took his back, got the rear naked choke pretty easily. And I do think Kopylov has pretty solid cardio. He's won a lot of his fights in the later rounds. All of his wins are finishes, and he has 5 finishes in round 3 or later. But I'm a little bit weary about this guy. I think that Albert Duraev is going to be able to take him down and get the submission via rear naked choke. And I think he's going to continue to keep it rolling. So give me Albert Duraev. And up next here we got Zubaira Tukhogov taking on Ricardo Ramos. And Zubaira Tukhogov, he's another one of these Khabib disciples. And he's had some moderate success in the UFC. But, up until this point, still most famous for getting punched in the face by Conor McGregor. And, he's had some mixed results. His last fight, he faced a really tough guy, Hakeem Dawodu, went to split decision. Got a quick knockout over Kevin Aguilar. And then he went to a draw with Lerone Murphy, who's also a very good fighter. And he's gotten some good wins in the UFC, but he hasn't really gotten that marquee win or big win streak going to get him into relevancy. 30 years old, he should be in his prime, but if he wants to get in a title picture, he has to start winning now. His opponent, Ricardo Ramos, he's younger, he's 26, and he's had 8 fights in the UFC, and he's had a lot of success. He went 6-2 in those fights, and he's got 2-1 since moving up to 145 pounds. His last win over Bill Algeo was one of the bigger name wins of his career. And he's going to be looking to build off that and win 2 fights in a row for the first time in almost 2 years. But, I like Zubaira Tukhogov in this fight. I think it's a good matchup for him. Ultimately, Ricardo Ramos, real athletic. He has good kicks on the feet, decent hands. But I still feel like a little bit loose with the striking. I don't really think his striking defense is the best. Feel like he could be a little bit awkward in the way that he, exits with his hands down. He pulls back. And Zubaira Tukhogov is a pretty good striker, man. The guy's really fast, closes the gap, has big power, and his wrestling is top notch. I don't think Ramos is going to be able to take him down, which is his bread and butter. Ramos has really good jiu-jitsu. When he can take the back, he's dangerous with the rear naked chokes. He can backpack, he win the round as well. And against Zubaira, I just don't see him getting the takedowns. I think Zubaira can put him on his back if he wants to and control him there as well. But I think Zubaira's going to catch him in the first round and knock him out here. So give me Zubaira Tukhogov for a first round knockout in this fight. And then in the last fight on the prelims, we got a female fight between Amanda Ribas and Virna Jandiroba. 2 Brazilian girls set to face off here. 2 grapplers as well, 2 black belts. We got Amanda Ribas, who's the favorite. I feel like she's the better athlete. She's the bigger girl. She's going to have the reach advantage on the feet, and she's going to have the speed advantage and the strike advantage overall. I feel like she's pretty good with her jab. She keeps it long. She throws some nice kicks. She has some good pull counters. Pretty fast. She has good pressure. Real aggressive. She does kind of have a questionable chin, which that's one thing that Virna maybe will try to attack, or obviously will. Virna throws a big right hand. But Virna's striking is improved. She has better footwork, and she's closing that gap and letting her shots go at better times, like with that straight right, with the right hook. But she still overextends a little bit, is a little bit sloppy, slow with her striking, doesn't really have the best kicking game, and definitely, obviously lives on the ground. She wants to get it to the ground, get on top and dominate. Even on her back, like she showed in her last fight, she's excellent. She broke Kanaka Murata's arm there. But against Amanda Ribas, I feel like, against higher level jiu-jitsu girls like Carlos Barza, they were able to take her down and control her on top and, avoid the submissions, where I feel like Amanda could do the same thing. She was able to do that against Mackenzie Dern, and I think Mackenzie is a little bit more dangerous on the ground than Virna, especially on bottom. Don't really see Virna getting the takedowns. And I think on the feet, Ribas is not really in as much danger as getting knocked out as she is against a girl like a Marina Rodriguez or something like that. So obviously, I'm more leaning towards Amanda Ribas bouncing back here and getting the win. You know, winning the striking on the feet, backing her up, using her, punches, bunches of the inside, keeping the range with the jab, pressuring what she wants to, exiting what she wants to, keeping it tight, maybe hitting some takedowns, and I think she'll get it done. So I'm going to go with Ribas here. And this is a good one, man. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Volkan Oezdemir. It's been a while since we've seen Volkan, but, he's dangerous for anyone, man, because he has those nasty leg kicks, pressures forward, those big bombs. He's super durable, and he has one-shot knockout power, even though maybe he isn't the fastest guy, the most technical guy, and Ankalaev is going to be trying to piece him up as he comes forward, touch him up, and knock him out. And Volkan in his last fight did get knocked out for the first time in his career, took a lot of damage against Yuri Prochaska, and, that could be something that could come back to bite him now. Maybe his chin isn't as good as it used to be. Maybe he's not going to be as confident pressuring forward. But in this fight with Magomed Ankalaev, he has to pressure. He has to try to get in his face and, throw those hooks on the inside. Ankalaev, he's very crispy with the striking, man. Excellent movement. He just has real fluid striking, really good counters. He's good off the front foot as well. Throws really nice kicks. He can mix his kicks in the middle of his hand combinations really fast. He's long. He can keep it rangy. And he can grapple really effectively as well, which is what I think he's going to do in this fight. We've seen, the blueprint with Volkan. He slows down if you grapple him a little bit. And we've seen guys like DC dominate him on the ground. Anthony Smith submitted him after a pretty high-paced fight. And I think Ankalaev can time the takedowns, get it to the ground, and that'll be the deciding factor in the fight. I think on the feet it could be fairly close because Volkan's going to be pressured and landing some shots of his own. But I think Ankalaev is going to be able to differentiate himself by a pretty big margin as well by getting it to the ground. I think he could even finish if he gets it to the ground with enough time in certain rounds. But give me Magomed Ankalaev here as the favorite to get it done. And here we go, man. We got the return of Khamzat Chimaev. He's going to be taking on the Leech, Li Jingliang. Definitely the best fighter he's ever fought. I mean, the Leech is coming off that big win over Santiago Ponzinibbio where he knocked him out. And he's a high-profile name. In China, he's almost unbeatable. But matchup-wise, this is a great matchup for Chimaev, man. I mean, the UFC knows what they're doing, giving him this guy. Obviously, Chimaev has some small questions. Obviously, he's coming off that big COVID issue where he had long time off. He hasn't fought in over a year, and he had a lot of complications in terms of getting back to 100%. So I feel like he has to kind of prove that doubt wrong. But in terms of the matchup, he's been fighting at 185 against bigger guys. He's going to have a pretty big size advantage in this fight, 3-inch reach advantage. The Leech, he's a really good fluid striker, but he's had issues with grapplers throughout his whole career. I mean, Jake Matthews would have submitted him if he didn't, rake his eyes real badly. Kita Nakamura rear naked choked him. He lost the grappling to Neo Magny. So, I mean, just looking at that, and then you look at a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, a guy that's a motherfucker in the grappling. He gets you to the ground and beats the shit out of you. He can take you down with ease. Maybe he's going to catch him on the feet and knock him out. I mean, there's always that possibility, right, where, you have a puncher's chance in MMA, and maybe, the Leech is going to catch him and be the first guy to knock out Chimaev and get a lot of credential, blast up those rankings. But, I don't think he's going to do that. I think Chimaev is going to get him down, beat him up, and probably find that submission win. So, Khamzat Chimaev for me is the pick, and I think he's going to get it done here via finish. And up next here we got Alexander Volkov taking on Marcin Tybura at a heavyweight bout. And with this fight, personally, I feel like the line is way too wide. I mean, Alexander Volkov has looked pretty good, obviously, recently, and he gained all that weight. He just fought Strogan in a big 5-round fight. He dominated Walt Harris. He dominated Alistair Overeem. But what has given Alexander Volkov issues throughout his career? I mean, outside of the fight with Derek Lewis where he just got flatlined, it's been guys that can grapple him and wrestle him. And Tybura, I mean, he's one of the better wrestlers in the entire division, man. I mean, he has, I believe, he's top 5 in total takedowns in the history of the heavyweight division. He has good level changes. He's fast. He's a pretty mobile guy. And, Volkov, he's a really, really good striker. He comes forward. He's kind of flat-footed, more of a kind of kicking-oriented guy, but he has really nice straight punches that he'll throw 1-2s, real nice jab, real good front kick up the middle, good high kicks. He'll attack the body, like I said, with the kicks and with punches pretty effectively. And he's just very, he keeps it very fundamental. He has great cardio. That's one thing that's excellent that he has for heavyweight. he could keep the same pace and kind of break guys. And the one thing he really hasn't shown, though, I mean, you watch that fight with Curtis Blades, his takedown defense is atrocious, man. I mean, he's not giving really any defense at all to the double leg. I mean, he's just getting taken down with ease. And, Tybura can do that to him as well, in my opinion. I mean, Tybura's going to have that ability to take him down in this fight. It's just whether he's going to get hit with a big shot throughout the way and knocked out. But, I mean, looking at the line, I really am tempted with Tybura, personally. I mean, I feel like he does have a big chance at victory here. I think that, he could definitely get the job done and get the win. But Volkov, obviously he has a lot of momentum, and a lot of people are pretty confident he's going to dominate this fight. I personally just feel like as if, Tybura, one thing about him that I don't like in certain fights is he could lose his composure or kind of just lose, I don't know how to say it, like he loses, like, lapses in judgment during the fight where he'll just kind of have a lull and he lets his opponent knock him out or hurt him or dominate him. And obviously he hasn't done that in his last five or six fights. He's won them all. But Alexander Volkov is going to get up off the takedowns. That's one thing that he is fairly good at. And if he can continue to get up in the third round, maybe he'll catch Tybura and knock him out and get the win that way. But I'm not that confident on Volkov, man. I'm going to pick him here in this spot as a minus 300 favorite. I don't think that's warranted, but I'm going to pick him here. I'm going to pick him by third round knockout, but my confidence level on Volkov is not super high here. And this is a treat right here at this next fight. We got Islam Makhachev taking on Dan Hooker. Another fight where I think the line is way off, man. I mean, Islam Makhachev, he's going to be moving closer to his title dreams. He's going to be taking on his first highly ranked opponent in Dan Hooker. And Makhachev, he's won 8 fights in a row in the UFC and won his first main event in his last fight. So obviously he's coming in here with a lot of momentum. He doesn't only win fights, man. He makes it look easy. He's won his last 2 fights via submission. His last submission came over a lifelong black belt, which was a very impressive win. As far as the striking goes for Islam, southpaw guy, fairly fluid mover. Doesn't really throw many strikes on the feet, but he has the threat of the takedown. He can pressure forward, fake fade, eventually close that gap with the 1-2 or a big body kick, get the takedown. I don't think he's as durable or comfortable on the feet in exchanges as a guy like Khabib. I still think on the feet he's a bit vulnerable, but he's barely gotten hit in a lot of his fights. He's so adept at backing guys to the fence, implementing his game plan. He's really yet to fight a big leg kicker or someone who throws knees yet, so this is going to be a different look for him. Dan Hooker could also go southpaw, which is something that Makhachev has struggled with in the past. He got knocked out by a southpaw, and he's been chinned before, so he is human. As far as the KO goes offensively for a guy like Hooker, I mean a guy like Islam, he only has 3 knockouts in his career, One of them came against Gleison Tibau. He landed that big shot on the feet. The other 2 came against opponents with 1 and 0 pro wins, so very low-level guys he knocked out very early in his career. As far as grappling goes, I mean, everyone knows he's an elite world-class grappler, Islam. He utilizes that same style as Khabib. He pressures, fires to the cage, shoots in against the cage, has really good clinch takedowns, really sticky on top, really hard to get out from under, really good transitions, really strong ground and pound, good submission game, really great cardio. He was scheduled for 5 rounds for the first time in his career. His last fight, he was able to get the finish in the 4th round, so that just reiterates his cardio factor. And one thing about Thiago Moises that I don't really think Dan Hooker is going to do, though, is Moises stood static against the fence a lot. He actually invited the clinch battle, even got a takedown, initiated a lot of clinch exchanges. And Hooker's going to be moving laterally, keeping the range, in my opinion. And, I don't really think that he's going to give him as many chances as easily that Moises did. Dan Hooker, I mean, this is going to be his 2nd fight in a month. He's a massive underdog. He's sacrificed a lot here. He's going to be stuck in the United States for who knows how long due to the New Zealand lockdown protocols for COVID. And he knows even though he's the higher-ranked guy, a win over Islam Makhachev would be huge in terms of getting back in the title picture for him. Dan Hooker, he's a dangerous guy for Islam to fight, man. I think he's definitely being underrated here because super long and rangy. He's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage. He could switch stances. He could fight southpaw, which has given Islam troubles in the past. One of his best weapons are his knees, and obviously against a fighter that's going to be wanting to bring the fight to the ground, that's a very dangerous weapon. He has the ability to strike moving forward and backwards. He has great distance control, fakes and feints effectively. He has really good footwork. He does hold his hands low. He relies on his head movement, so he is hittable a lot in certain fights, but he's very durable. And in this fight, he's going to want to use his calf kick, use his jab, use that straight left laser. He's going to want to, attack the kicks a lot. I mean, Islam kind of has skinny legs. He doesn't check kicks. If you could go southpaw and rip a few of those leg kicks, you could get Islam desperate enough to maybe walk onto a shot. It's going to be really hard to catch a knee probably because Islam doesn't shoot takedowns like that. But always flash those knees, flash the uppercut, try to discourage the level change. And Hooker has had issues with guys that actually level change more than guys that try to take him down in the clinch in his fights. But he was doing a good job of that against Michael Chandler prior to getting caught. He was working the leg kicks, working a lot of lateral movement. And he has 10 knockouts. He's going to be looking for another one on Saturday night. He's an underrated grappler in his own right. He showed that off against Nasrat Hakparas. He took him down several times, grinded him out en route to a decision victory. He was able to get 3 takedowns in that fight. He got 4 takedowns against Dustin Poirier. His takedown in the 5th round against Paul Felder likely won him that fight. And his takedown defense is really good. He has 80% takedown defense. It's hard to back him up. Obviously, shooting in on him is super dangerous with the knee threat. And Jason Knight really is the only fighter that's been effective in shooting in and hitting takedowns on Hooker. Hooker also has great front chokes, several guillotine wins. He's been able to take out all the grapplers he's faced outside of Michael Chandler, who knocked him out with relative ease at 155 pounds. He dominated Jim Miller. He knocked him out. He knocked out Gilbert Burns, destroyed Ali Quinta. And he has his wrestling coach, Frank Hickman, with him. They've been getting it in, so he at least has good guys behind him in the grappling department. If he gets taken down, he obviously is going to struggle, but all fights start standing up. And if Makhachev does get the match to the ground, Hooker does give his back to stand up. I feel like he will be in danger of getting submitted if he does get taken down, but he's a veteran. He's a very tough guy. Cardio has never been an issue for Hooker. He's actually been pining to get this fight changed to 5 rounds, even though that's obviously not going to happen most likely. He's going to have the gas go hard the whole time, especially in this 3-round fight. And man, just this line to me is like super disrespectful, man. I just don't really understand it. I feel like Hooker, he was way significantly less favored against other competition that's more proven than Islam. And Islam, I mean, the guy's really good, but I feel like he's a little overrated, man. I feel like he's not necessarily as just dominant with the grappling and the wrestling like a Khabib level guy. I mean, I still want to see it. I want to see it against a super high level mover that could, counter and can be very effective off the back foot, is not going to invite a lot of those grappling exchanges or pressure forward. I mean, a lot of Islam's opponents, when you look at it, a lot of them have been more grappling-based fighters. Thiago Moises, Davi Ramos, Armin Sarukian, Kajan Johnson, Nick Lentz, Chris Wade. I mean, all those guys are grapplers. You look at the one striker that he fought in Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a guy that likes to pressure forward, get into a brawl, stay right in your face, and he isn't necessarily going to keep that range and have that same type of game plan or fight like Dan Hooker is. And, I mean, maybe a lot of people are going to call me crazy, real stupid, but I'm going to go with Dan Hooker, man. I'm going with the underdog in this fight. I mean, if the line was significantly closer, I probably would go with the Islam, but, Islam's going to have to prove it to me on this one, and, I'm going to go with Dan Hooker at the plus 500, plus 440 odds, and pick him to get the first round knockout here. And now we're moving into the title fights. We're in the co-main event here with Petr Yan taking on Cory Sandhagen. This is the UFC Interim Championship of the World, where a lot of people probably do recognize this as the official title. We saw Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan in the last fight, and Aljamain Sterling technically got the win and the belt, but Petr Yan looked like he was on his way to a clear victory, landed that illegal knee, changed the fight, got a DQ victory for Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling, unfortunately, couldn't make it to this date, hasn't been able to fight since that matchup. So they made this interim fight. He's going to be taking on Cory Sandhagen, who actually is coming off a loss as well to TJ Dillashaw, but that fight was a split decision. It was very close, and Dillashaw suffered several injuries before that fight or after that fight, so he isn't able to compete at this time, so they're going to be putting in Cory Sandhagen, and it was a very close fight anyways, so a lot of people thought Sandhagen won that fight. They obviously thought Peter is the kind of real champion, so they could see this as the real title fight here. And two real elite strikers with different kind of styles. Both guys are pressure fighters, though. They both like to, pressure forward, even though Cory Sandhagen can strike off the back foot more effectively than Petr Yan, in my opinion, and he probably will have to in this fight. But, when you look at both these guys, Cory Sandhagen is the taller, longer, rangier guy. He, has his hands down, more of a loose style, bladed stance, moves around. He really likes to, pressure and feint a lot and try to, pull counter you with those flying knees, with a big spin kick, with, big straight punches. And he's pretty effective with that. I mean, obviously, he's really good at picking and pulling his shots, faking and feinting, landing counters, catching you as you try to come in, working the jab as log punches, keeping it rangy, being very fast, slick. And then once you start to get kind of over-aggressive or you start to get desperate, that's where he can pull you into that flying knee, pull you into a spinning heel kick, and knock you out. He doesn't necessarily have big power in his hands or just like in his regular shots that he attacks with, but when he lands those dynamic shots, he doesn't really need power to get the knockout. And, his grappling is pretty good. He's obviously a pretty good he's a pretty good scrambler on the ground. He has good ability to, work up if he gets taken down. He has really good Grammy rolls, things like that. And he has good submission defense. And when he gets on top, he has good submission offense. He's pretty aggressive there. One thing about him is his takedown defense has not been the best. He's been taken down in several of his fights and isn't really that great, getting back up to his feet. He is good at getting back up to his feet, but he's just not that great at getting out of the clinch and kind of getting completely free. He can get kind of grinded on, like his last fight with TJ Dillashaw. And you saw his fight with Aljamain Sterling. He gave his back, got submitted. So he has a tendency to give his back to stand up, which can be a detriment to him as well. His cardio is really good, but I do think that, he's never been, 5 rounds up until his last fight with Dillashaw. And his cardio looked good in that fight, but if you watch another fight, like for instance with John Lineker, I do think he was getting a little bit tired towards the end of that 3rd round. His style is predicated on a ton of movement, and, if you're pressuring him, walking him down, which I do think Petr Yan is going to do, you're obviously going to get a little bit tired with that. But Petr Yan has to be very careful not to walk into a knee, walk into a spinning attack. But, I feel like on the inside, he's going to have the significantly better hands, better boxing. Petr Yan is some of the best boxing in the sport, really excellent. He attacks the body super effectively. I feel like that's what he wants to do in this fight, attack the body, chip away with the leg kicks, and mix in the takedown. So that's kind of what I feel like he would have the most success doing here. If he could slow him down with the body shots, then he could start going back up to the head. If he could really chip him away with the legs, it could slow his movement. And timing the takedowns will just help him in terms of winning points. And I do think it could kind of slow Cory down in terms of wanting to throw the knees and the spinning attacks, a lot of kicks, things like that. So it can make Cory a little bit less dynamic. I do feel like Petr, he's one of the best 5-round fighters in the sport, man. I think he's super hard to deal with over 5 rounds. And I just ultimately feel like he's going to break down Cory Sandhagen with the body shots, the leg kicks, with the takedowns. He's going to implement that game plan. Cory Sandhagen is going to be, keeping it sharp, keeping it tight, trying to, stay long and land that kill shot. But I don't think it's going to come for him. If it does, he's going to get the knockout and he's going to become world champ. But if it doesn't, I don't think he's going to be able to last over 5 rounds with Petr, man. I don't think he's going to be able to keep styling on him over 5 rounds, moving, being super cute. I think that Petr's going to be able to eventually start getting to him, beating him up, getting on the inside, getting takedowns, maybe controlling on top more effectively, and, just doing the thing, man. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan here to get the belt, be and new again, even though I feel like it's kind of an and still situation. And Petr Yan is going to be the pick for me here. And then finally, we got the main event here, man. And this is one of these fights that I've been looking forward to forever. I'm one of my most forward-looking 2 fights of the year with Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, 2 beasts, 2 205ers. And Blachowicz, he's finally getting the respect he deserves. This is the first time he's coming in as the favorite in his 3 UFC title fights. He was an over 2-1 underdog, both against Dominic Reyes and Israel Adesanya. Now he's a minus 275 favorite here over Teixeira. And he's won 9 of his last 10 fights. Recently, obviously, he's looked better than ever. And not only is it improbable because how Blachowicz started his UFC career, but also a lot of it is made about Glover Teixeira's age. But Jan Blachowicz is not young either. He's 38 years old. And, he's been able to turn it around and, do really well. So props to him. And he's a very high IQ fighter. He's long, he's rangy. He can fight moving backwards or forwards. And in this fight, I expected to fight off the back foot as he normally does versus wrestlers. He likes to work his jab, throw the low calf kicks. He has good fakes and feints. Waits for fighters to make a mistake so he can counter with his big right hand or the left hook. He has fast hands on the inside. His jab is super good. And he's explosive. And when he wants to explode in with the combination, he can, and he's very effective. He's improved his counter punching. He's a very skillful boxer. And, I think he needs to look for the lead and rear uppercuts of this fight because that gave a lot of issues to Glover in his past fights. In exchanges, he's going to have the significantly faster hands. He's durable as well. And he obviously has a really good kicking game with that leg kicks, the body kicks. I don't really see him throwing a lot of kicks up top here, like body kicks and head kicks, because he doesn't want to get taken down. But recently he showed power, good knockouts. Definitely can crack, but I do think his power is a bit overrated. I mean, he's been... in 28 fights, he only has 8 knockouts. 2 of those were via kicks, so he only has 6 knockouts with his hands. And he's finished a lot of smaller and chinny fighters overall in the recent run that he's gone on, like guys like Corey Anderson and Luke Rockhold, for instance, fighters like that. Defensively, Blachowicz is pretty good, and he has a great chin. He's only been finished by strikes 1 time in his career, and he also got finished by doctor stoppage due to a broken nose way back in the day, but he's been proven to be super durable. And he's a good grappler in his own right. He's a black belt. He showed off his wrestling skills against Israel. And if you look at Blachowicz's career, he's had issues with grapplers. He had a really ugly, slow split decision with Jacare Souza in 2019. He was held against the cage for long periods of time in that fight. He has losses to guys like Patrick Cummings, Alexander Gustafsson, Corey Anderson, who all took him down and grinded him out. And he only has 65% takedown defense in the UFC. So obviously, it's not the best, and that's going to be tested here unless he gets the early finish. He did fight Corey Anderson and Luke Rockhold recently, and he got those wins. But outside of that, his recent run, he's faced mostly strikers, so this is a different matchup. He has improved his takedown defense a lot against the cage. He can be controlled there, though. In this fight, he has to be a bit more mobile and not let himself get clinched up so much. When he actually gets put on his back, he hasn't really shown to be that good. I mean, he has the armbar from full guard, but against Glover, I highly doubt he could hit the submission. And he doesn't really have a great ability to get up off bottom. He can be ground and pounded pretty effectively. He slows down after being put on his back. And he has decent offensive wrestling, but I don't really see him trying to wrestle, obviously, in this fight. His cardio is a little bit questionable. I mean, his last fight against Izzy, he went 5 rounds, but he was able to get on top and kind of slow the fight down and be lazy in top position. Didn't really look for any finishes. Laid and prayed a little bit and got his breath. Against Glover, that's not going to be an option. And Glover, at 42 years old, he's bowed himself back to another UFC title shot. I mean, who would have thought, man? I mean, the main training partner for Chuck Liddell is fighting for the title in 2021. I mean, pretty impressive. And, he had a title shot against John Jones way back in the day in 2014. Came up short, but you can't keep a good man down. I mean, 7 years later, he's looking to right that wrong, hold UFC gold. And he's a dog, man. On the feet, he's lost a bit of his speed and his explosion, but he still has heavy hands, technical boxing, pressures forward, hands high, solid head movement. He's still pretty hittable coming in, but he slips a lot of punches as well. He doesn't check low kicks, so that's something that I think Blachowicz is going to try to exploit. But he throws some thudding low kicks of his own at times, and he wants to back guys to the cage where he can work his combinations, go body head. He has a pretty good jab as well, and just very good on the inside. He could brawl, very durable, and he's gotten better at being smart and not putting himself in bad positions as much on the feet. He has an iron chin and some of the best recoverability in the history of the sport. I mean, no man has been dropped and came back to win more than Glover Teixeira, it seems. But Teixeira has been finished by strikes 3 times in his career. One of those was in the first fight of his career in 2002, so you can kind of throw that one out. His other 2 losses came against Alexander Gustafsson via knockout. That was in the 5th round after sustaining a ton of damage. And then he got caught in the first 13 seconds against Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's obviously, in my opinion, the heaviest hitter in the history of the light heavyweight division. And Glover Teixeira, in my opinion, actually has the more one-punch knockout power out of the 2 fighters between him and Jan Blachowicz. He has 18 knockouts in his career. Jan is obviously the superior striker, but Glover Teixeira knows what he wants to do, especially now at his older age. He's improved his cardio, his strength, his strength and conditioning, and you can tell in his physique, which has also helped his wrestling. He has great wrestling against the cage, excellent single and double leg. When he gets in top position, he's super good. He has amazing control, brutal ground and pound. His submission game is elite. He has the ability to scramble off bottom as well and get back on top. He can be dropping, smash with ground and pound, reverse, get on top, go to work. And in his last fight, he took some bombs from one of the heaviest hitters in UFC history. Thiago Santos, had the power to knock out the super durable Jan Blachowicz, but Glover Teixeira took his power, took him down, and broke him and submitted him. So, Teixeira's amazing cardio, and he needs to push the pace in this fight. I think if he can get the fight to the ground, put the pressure on Jan, his cardio will shine here. And Jan is long. He could strike off the back foot, but he isn't super mobile and light on his feet like fighters, for instance, like Gus, Corey Anderson. He's definitely a bit more stiff and flat-footed. That definitely makes this a more interesting fight because I think Teixeira is going to be able to get a hold of him easier than a guy like Alex Gustafsson. And Blachowicz is probably, in my opinion, going to try to sit down, throw with more power, try to get Glover out of there in the early rounds. And he has to be confident in his knockout ability right now due to his recent performances. He's had a much better chin, in my opinion, Glover, than the fighters that Yan has been taking out outside of Dom Reyes. Reyes, got smashed with body kicks before he got finished, and I feel like that was a big factor. And, I don't think he's going to be able to throw a lot of those body kicks against Glover. Glover's going to be trying to pressure the fence, work the takedowns, and I do think he can strike a little bit with Jan as well, because Jan is a good striker, but more deliberate. He's not a combo puncher. Unless he can one-punch KO guy like Glover, I think he's going to, try to piece him up with a jab, the big crosses, low kicks, chip away if he has to win and not really look for that knockout. Glover, if he can get on top or continue to pressure, take big shots, and back Yan up, I do think he could start to sway the fight and take over. If he can get it to the mat, I think he's going to have a big advantage. We saw in the fight with Jan Blachowicz when he took on Jacare Souza, which I think is a decent proximity to this matchup. Jacare had a lot of success controlling him against the cage. He, in my opinion, is not as good in boxing range. He's not as strong or good in the tie-ups as Glover, and his wrestling isn't as good. So if Glover can get in those same positions, I do think Glover could maybe get him to the ground. And Glover on top, it almost guarantees him the round, and he has that ability to kind of chip away and start to get Jan tired, maybe even finish him later on or finish him in that round when he gets him down. So he, in my opinion, is kind of being undervalued as well. Jan, his last 5-round fight with Izzy, like I said, he slowed the fight down a lot with the wrestling. He doesn't have that luxury with Glover. And, we've seen Jan struggle with the wrestler-grappler style multiple times. I think Jan is getting a little bit bloated up because his win over Izzy. But, styles make fights. This is a much different matchup, in my opinion. And it's not going to be nearly the same as his fight with Israel Adesanya. So I feel like the line should be much closer. Glover's going to be mentally ready to go through hell and be ready to, take a lot. You're going to have to really beat him up to take him out, in my opinion. So, ultimately, I'm going to go with Glover Teixeira by 5th round submission or knockout. I think he's going to be able to go out there and prove everyone wrong again, man. Get the win. Jan Blachowicz, he is a guy that is finally getting some love and, getting some, shine as the champ. That also, in my opinion, kind of sways me more towards Glover. Glover is the hungrier guy, in my opinion, as well here in this fight. So I'm going with Glover Teixeira here to get the job done. For my most confident pick on the card, I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev. And my parlay of the week is going to be Albert Duraev, Khamzat Chimaev, and Tagir Ulanbekov. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this full card breakdown for UFC 267, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. Please hit the like button. I'm trying to get 250 likes for this video, so hitting that like button goes a long way in helping the channel. Comment down below as well who you think is going to win the main event, what you think is going to happen in the co-main event. Really interested in going back and forth with you guys on what you think about that. And, what do you guys think about my pick, Dan Hooker? You think I'm crazy, or you think he does have a chance at this fight? So that's my full card breakdown, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later.